Recorded Books presents Swarm, a LitRPG adventure. I Don't Want to Be the Hive Queen, Book 1, by Valethehowl. Narrated by Braun. Prologue. Sarah ran for her life, her copper-brown hair trailing in the wind, while monstrous figures chased after her. Contrary to what could be expected of a maiden running away from horrible monsters, she was not panicking. An Aura Master never panics. Granted, she technically wasn't an Aura Master yet, but that was only due to her postponing her trial in order to take part in this God's-damned expedition. She was more than skilled enough to hold the Crimson Sheath. Still, Aura Master or not, she was confident in her control of her emotions, so the weird sensation in her chest must surely be her armor being a tad too tight, and definitely not abject terror gripping her heart. Similarly, the fact that she was fervently swearing under her breath didn't mean she was scared. No, sir. That was only because of the burning anger for getting herself involved in this whole fiasco. Most of her curses were aimed at Carl, the old adventurer who convinced her to join this accursed expedition to the Dark Heart, the mysterious region at the center of the Caligare forest. If it wasn't for him, she would have never let herself get involved in such a foolish journey, but the old man had been weirdly convincing. His feverish optimism and enthusiasm infected all those who listened to him, to the point that Sarah would have suspected the involvement of some mind magic trickery, if she hadn't been so confident in her mental defenses. Nevertheless, the end result found Sarah as the only survivor of the expedition, and she would soon share the fate of her companions if she couldn't lose her pursuers, which meant she should focus on escaping before trying to pin the blame for this situation. Concentrating on her legs, she used the flash step aura technique to increase her speed, accelerating to the pace of a galloping horse. She could have potentially gone even faster, but the terrain was far too treacherous for that, being almost entirely covered in a weird mold, similar to gray wax, on which she could easily slip and fall. Besides, that speed still allowed her to gradually outdistance her pursuer, albeit not as quickly as she would have wished. The chase continued for a while in an eerie silence, broken only by Sarah's footsteps and her enemy's chittering. There was no bird song, nor rustling leaves, not even insects crawling on the ground. The whole place was dead, and shrouded in that waxy mold that seemed to suffocate any other form of life. Sarah had known something was deadly wrong the very moment they stepped out of the jungle into that huge, mold-covered clearing. Her suspicions had only grown when her aura senses failed to pick up any signs of life coming from it. Worse still, once she had stepped on it, her own aura senses dulled. And yet she let Carl convince her to march on. At worst, he'd said with seemingly absolute confidence, the dead zone would have marked the presence of a colony of undead, and their group had several veteran clerics to deal with such an infestation. After testing the substance covering the ground and making sure it wasn't poisonous, nor would it animate to try to swallow them, he dismissed it as a harmless variety of mold from the Dark Heart. And the others followed him over that dead zone, blinded by Carl's talk of the Golden Temple ahead, and all of the treasures it would contain. Now, to be fair, the old explorer had been partially right. After half a day of marching through that horrible clearing with their aura sense completely blinded, they'd reached the temple, and it was almost exactly how Carl described it. 40 meters tall, and seemingly made out entirely of gold, crystallium, and other precious materials. And that was where the old adventurer's information started going wrong, and everything went to hell. First off, the walls of the temple were almost entirely covered by the same mold wax that encrusted everything else. And second, it wasn't infested by...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?